Tonight on News 5 Live, Belize Defense Force Corporal Yasser Mendez is buried with military honors in his home village in Orange Walk as investigations continue into the worst air disaster. Mayhem in the city. A late evening shooting in the city ends in murder. A delivery truck overturns on the Hummingbird Highway near Armenia, killing the driver. 2 delivery men are injured. The Ministry of Health says it is prepared for the coronavirus when it is detected in Belize. And stevedores enter a second day of strikes at the Port of Belize Limited. CW President Mose Hyde says the stevedores will stand their ground until their concerns are addressed. Details of these stories and more coming up in tonight's newscast.
What's better than unlimited text messages with your postpaid plan? How about unlimited national
Good evening. Welcome to News 5 Live for Tuesday, March 3rd. I am Marlene Cuellar. Corporal Yasser Mendez joined the Belize Defense Force as a member of Intake 53 in 2010. He was posted to the Air Wing in 2011. He served there up to the time of his untimely death, along with 3 of his colleagues in the line of duty last week. Today, Mendez was buried in his village in the north. Here's a look at the funeral proceedings.
Corporal Yasser Mendez was buried with military honors in his home village of Douglas in Orange Walk. This morning, Mendez's casket, draped with the Belizean flag, departed his home on the shoulders of 6 fellow BDF soldiers. The casket was loaded onto a ceremonial hearse. The Belize Defense Force led the procession through the village to the church where the body was received. Following the service, the soldiers led the way to the village cemetery, where the pallbearers, 6 BDF soldiers, carried the casket to its final resting place. There, the final words and rites were performed to the tune of the BDF band's bugler, playing the Lost Post, and the soldiers carried out the ceremonial 21-gun salute. At the end of the service, Minister Elodie Aragon handed over the Belize flag to Yasser Mendez's wife. It was an incredibly sad day for Mendez's family, friends, and colleagues. Leobardo Mendez says that it was an extremely difficult day for the family, and it was one that they just wanted to see to a peaceful conclusion.
It was very, very, very difficult to start with. What happened is my uncle, I feel is my uncle is the one who actually feels the most. Because my auntie, actually she looked like he's taking it, but from here to the church, at the church is where they start to feel it more, but when they reach at the burial ground is where it is because of they already put them in.
Attending today's funeral are Minister of State in the Ministry of National Security, Elodie Aragon, former Minister of National Security, John Saliver, and Area Representative of Orange Walk South, Gaspar Vega, Brigadier General of the Belize Defense Force, Stephen Ortega, and other rank and file of the Belize Defense Force, as well as other law enforcement representatives. Minister Elodie Aragon shared some words following the service.
Today I missed Cabinet because I wanted to be here. I think it is very important that we have the representation from the executive and somebody representing the government, the Prime Minister out here. And taking time to be here, I think it is just right because, at the end of the day, these soldiers lost their lives in the line of duty to their country. And I think it is important that we take the time to come out and show that support to the family, to the village, and to all Belizeans that we care of what has transpired, and I think it was just fitting for me to take the time and to be here. The history of the village is that the village has a large amount of serving members, whether they are in the police department, the Coast Guard, or the BDF, and so it is very touching for the village, but more so for the immediate family, the wife, the kids, his dad, his mom. All of these things are very tough on the family itself, and being out here, at least giving that support, and I know all the members of the BDF, the Coast Guard that were out here, that you saw them today, the police was out here too, I think it goes to comfort them. Nobody can ever replace the loss and the grief that they are going through, but at least we are here to support that and to let them know that we are standing by their sides.
Today, Mendez's uncle, Leobardo Mendez, a former sergeant major with the Belize Defense Force, recounts the 28-year-old's love for his job.
Yasser told my uncle, I want to join the BDF because actually I'm an ex-sergeant major. And I told him, well, BDF is a good career if you want to take it like that. Then one day he told me that he's going to take the test. Yeah, I passed the test, the exam, actually, and they called him to join the recruitment. He got through the training. After the training, he joined my unit, which is, at that time it was G Company, Golf Company. And he was there with me for 3 months. After that, there was a vacancy to join the air wing crew. Then I told him, Yazir, that is a good place to make you go. That's a good career for you because you could learn more. And then okay, tell me, uncle, okay, I will take the opportunity. I told him, okay, you go because you have to pass one exam too. And he went and took the exam, I passed it. Like 1 week after, they told him, okay, Yazir, you qualified, I will transfer to Yahweh. From then, the idea is continue until know what happened to him.
Did he love his job? What kind of person was he on that job?
Well, to my knowledge, is a person actually really dedicated to his work. Because one day he told me, Uncle, I'm so happy what you did for me. You give me that opportunity to move to Airwing, and I'm so glad with you.
Mendes says that the sudden death on the job is the last thing that they expected, despite the nature of the work. He says that now that the burial is over, they want some answers because they don't believe that they've received a full account of what really transpired during the deadly helicopter crash.
It's something that nobody was expecting this tragedy, what happened, but it's something that it happens so sudden that people just take it like, wow. To tell you the truth is, I think we need to, I think that everybody's asking for more information of what actually happened, transpired to that accident.
You, as his uncle, do you have maybe any doubts, any worries, any fear perhaps that certain things are maybe being held back from you guys, from the family?
Well, I think it's something that everybody think about it because I don't think they are giving the exact information that should be passed to the, because I think they took too long to I would tell you
Like to inform the family of what happened.
what happened, yes, and it took too long for react to what happened.
Corporal Yasir Mendez and 3 of his fellow soldiers, Major Adrian Ramirez, Major Radford Bizer, and Corporal Reynaldo Choco, all died in line of duty when the helicopter they were on board crashed into the Western Lagoon off the coastal road. Minister Orgon describes the loss of these lives as a tragedy in so many ways.
This is a great loss. This incident that has occurred is a real tragedy to the Belize on a whole, especially to the air wing of the BDF, because at the end of the day, these men were people who had not only serving members but were well trained. A lot of investment had been made in terms of them, and they were doing a great service to this nation. Where the air wing is at this point in time, we have to find more people. I guess people have to come up now and take up these challenges, so it's a great loss in all accounts.
Mendez's family last saw him alive a few days before the crash. They found out that he had died that Friday morning. He leaves behind a wife and 2 children. Yasir Mendez, Corporal of Belize Defense Force, dead at 28 years old. Reporting for News 5, I'm Andrea Polanco.
The families of the fallen officers have made public their disappointment that they learned of the demise of their loved ones on social media and not from the BDF command. Today we spoke to retired Captain Derisa Jael, who has a bachelor's in aircraft maintenance. She formed part of the Belize Defense Force as the aircraft maintenance officer for the Air Wing. Jael explained the force's standard operating procedures, and in particular the importance of communication. According to Jael, it's not only a requirement to establish communication before departing on a mission, but it is also equally important to keep communication with the base during the mission. Jael says that it is unusual that communication was not constant between the team and base.
There's a list of minimum equipment that is needed for every single aircraft to take off, and one of those, ironically, is a communication system. That's one of the bare minimum that must be on that aircraft, whether it's the helicopter, whether it's the fixed wing aircraft. That must be.
It's a must.
It's a must. let's not think specifically to aviation. Let's think to the standard operating procedures of the military when going out on a patrol. That patrol is whether it's a riverine patrol, whether it's a land patrol, or whether it's an air patrol. Establishing comms is a must before departure. Establishing comms throughout portions of the patrol is also a must. There is, and I saw in the press conference where they made reference to not having communications during certain missions.
You say it was usual.
It's not usual. It is not usual. How will we communicate back with base if something is wrong, if we don't establish comms? I mean, there is such a thing as radio silence. Radio silence would be established when you're probably in the high area of where the enemy is or where your target is that you're going. You would go silent while you're doing your reconnaissance, so as not to be picked up by any handheld radio or something that your target might actually have. But radio silence is not for the entire duration of the operation. If you do a close target reconnaissance that is getting within a certain perimeter of the area that is expected to be your target area, within that area there is radio silence. But as soon as you leave that, you give back information to the ground troops, you give back information to the riverine troops in order for them to actually know this is what is there. This is how much people there are, this is the kind of weapon that they have, this is the lat and long location. I mean, there is no patrol, not a foot patrol, a riverine patrol, or an air patrol that is authorized by the standard operating procedures of the Belize Defense Force to go out without establishing comms before, during, and after operations. Within the flying orders which exist at the air wing, there is such a thing known as the duty technician. The duty technician is supposed to establish comms before that aircraft leaves. Every half an hour, there is supposed to be a radio check to ensure that they are still within the radio frequency to be able to communicate back with that duty technician. So every half an hour there should be something logged, whether it's at the air wing or it's at the operations cell in Price Barracks, that they do still have communication with that patrol. Every patrol must have a patrol profile with the people going on that patrol, the expected time of return for that patrol, the expected time of departure for that patrol. So as far as I'm concerned, there is no way that any patrol could have gone out with zero communication. That is, I've never seen a SOP such as that within the Belize Defense Force. And it's even going on trucks. If you go on a truck from Price Barracks to Camp Belisario in Cayo, there has to be communication. It's not the fact of how long the bodies were there. It's not a matter of how these pilots and technicians became deceased. The issue is, at some point, a mayday could have been sent.
According to the Ministry of National Security, Commandant of the Belize Coast Guard, Captain Elton Bennett, is the lead investigator, under command of Chief of Defense Staff Admiral John Borland, into the tragic incident. Experts from BATSA, the U.S. and Mexico are also assisting in the investigation. A final report is expected in 2 weeks. Retired Major Lloyd Jones appeared on Open Your Eyes this morning, where he spoke of what he thinks may have caused the helicopter to crash.
I think that the aircraft encountered a catastrophic mechanical failure, whether that was the engines or whether it was the rotary system or the hydraulic system. There was something catastrophic that happened that did not even give the pilots an opportunity to make a call. And so two things can lead to that. One, the aircraft is shut down, or two, there is a catastrophic mechanical failure. Because remember now, a helicopter has this blade going around, and if something goes wrong, that helicopter will spin on that axis, and the G-forces alone would make it almost impossible for you to be able to reach out and turn a radio, because the internal communications as they are flying, there's an internal communications. To go to base, they have to switch on a radio to go to base. Okay, so to be able to do that, if you're under heavy G-forces, you're not going to be able to do that at all. So something happened that they were not even able to call to base to say, look, I'm having difficulties, I need assistance, or so on. So that was something absolutely catastrophic happened. What has happened here is that the entire air wing has been decapitated. You see, so it is really a tragic loss, as you said.
Is that just a practice? Is it or actual procedure?
When I was there, it was procedure. So when I would deploy, would deploy with my troops, I would be in one vehicle, and we call it the 2IC, the second in command, would be at the rear in another vehicle. We never traveled together. So I don't understand how this could have happened. And again, this tells me that this order could not have come from the commander.
As you've heard, the families of the deceased soldiers have complained that the Belize Defense Force failed to notify them that the men had gone missing, even though there are procedures that should be followed in such an event. The anti-drug operation occurred on Thursday morning, and it was not until Friday that the families learned of the tragic helicopter crash. Retired Major Lloyd Jones says that the force's failure to follow procedures is a total disrespect for the families.
If the commander is unaware that the aircraft is missing, you could understand why he would not say anything. But ordinarily, the adjutant, who is kind of like the administrative officer for the force, would be the one to then, on the instructions of the commander, to reach out to the family and say, look, we can't tell you exactly what has happened, but the aircraft left, they have not returned, and we are searching for them. That would have been the very basic. We don't want to create alarm or nothing, but we just want you in the loop. It would be interesting to find out how our brothers died, because if it was by drowning, then I think a lot of people are going to be in trouble, because it would mean that perhaps they survived the initial crash, but were in the water without assistance, leading to their drowning. And I think that also has to be a point of focus for the inquiry.
There was mayhem in the city this afternoon as a number of shootings took place in the south side. At news time, it is known that one person was killed in the gun violence at the corner of Iguana Street and Central American Boulevard. At this time, police are processing the scene. Earlier this afternoon, the spate of shootings started on Zericota Street in Belize City, where John Crawford, a Belizean barber, received a single gunshot in the left side of the cheek. Crawford is hospitalized in a stable condition. When we arrived on the scene today, a man in the area told us off camera that the shooting happened so quickly, and by the time he realized what was happening, the barber was already injured.
Me see one man just come stand up like he call him, and all gun and shot. All I see a young man run. I suffering, I don't know, I didn't know if it happened. Ready? I just feel disappointed, man. Real.
How much shots fired?
No one shot, man.
Barber injured?
Not really, just not really injured, man. Kind of talk and everything. Check everything in the talk and everything is good. And all I say, man, the young man have to stop and put down the gun, man. All they have to do.
The shooting was followed by another on Sarstoon Street. Coming up, the driver of a delivery truck dies in a traffic accident on the Hummingbird Highway. There was a traffic fatality early this morning on the Hummingbird Highway. It happened when a delivery truck transporting dry goods and food items collided with a pickup truck and overturned near the village of Armenia. The driver of the truck, belonging to Herman Vega and Sons Limited, was trapped inside and died before he could have been pulled out. 2 delivery men traveling with him were injured but managed to get out of the vehicle. The police and ambulance arrived at the scene about an hour later. By then, residents in the area had rendered what assistance they could. News 5's Sani Caetano reports.
A delivery truck en route to Placencia overturned along the Hummingbird Highway this morning near the outskirts of Armenia village. Inside the vehicle were 3 men, including 30-year-old Jose Quinones, who has since been identified as its driver. They were rounding a curve near the junction with Agua Viva Road when it clipped a single-cab pickup traveling in the opposite direction. Ingrid Isagire was inside her home when she heard a loud bang shortly after 6 a.m.
We were just waking up when we hear a big noise over that side. And we all ran, right? Me, my kids, my parents here, my family, we ran. Then we saw the truck, they roll over. Then they got knocked yanda, so by the kana yanda, by the drain. Then my kids, I told my kids, run and see what could help. Then my kids, they run, my 2 boys and my son-in-law, they run, go see what then could help, right?
Inside the mangled wreck were Kelvin Torres and Melvin Ramirez, both delivery men who were accompanying Quinones to convey the shipment of goods to the peninsula. In making the turn, the vehicle collided into the left side of the oncoming pickup before careening and overturning off the shoulder of the highway.
Yeah, it crashed, like it crashed to something else, to a next vehicle, but the next vehicle gone. And then, meanwhile, then people that call police, nor ambulance, nothing. Till about after 1 hour and something, police they start to come. Then they come, they realize, but the man inside, 2 of the men, they come out. However, they couldn't come out. Then the next one was stuck up inside. Him is still alive. Him is still alive. Him they attack them, the one my kids, and then they try to take out the man, but the man is stuck up. Then they call, then they talk to the man attack. But afterwards, after a few minutes afterwards, the man dead because they couldn't take him out till the Mennonites then get what how they call it backhoe, and then start to lift up them. They haul it, but for open the truck, right? But they chain my boss, and next piece of the truck my boss. So then lift it up, then lift up the truck. And then when they start to try to take out the man, and when they take out the man don't mean dead already.
Armenia Village, the first community just outside of Belmopan when heading in the direction of Dangriga, is less than 15 minutes away. What took emergency first responders over an hour to arrive at the scene of the accident is anyone's guess. Nonetheless, it is inexcusable. When the police got here and the ambulance, what happened insofar as them processing the scene or what have you?
Well, nothing happened because the boys and the people, they don't take out the body already from the truck. They just not gonna do nothing. They're not gonna do nothing. They just reach and start to move people and yes, nothing. They just come do what they have to do and done.
Property of German Vega and Sons Limited, the cargo truck, damaged beyond repair, came to rest in an embankment just across the road from Isagire's residence. Its contents were strewn across the highway, and despite the efforts of officers on the scene, a gaggle of villagers from Armenia and other surrounding communities flocked to the location and began helping themselves to packs of Pampers, detergent, non-perishable food items, and other groceries. Notwithstanding the tragic loss of life, men, women, and children were salvaging anything they could have gotten their hands on during the free-for-all.
One of the workers, or I don't know what he was, what he had his blue shirt. He said, okay, could start to pick up. Then I don't know what. So that's why the people when they come by the highway and all of that, right? They start to stop right there. So and till now.
Did you see if police officers even took stuff?
Yes, they did. They did take. They had. I told them I will take a video and I will put it on Facebook. Then and one of them that he came. One of the one woman back there. So she's a poor woman, right? She had a pack of Pampers, and a big police. He came and he grabbed it, said, no more picking up. He grabbed it and he took it away from her hand and he take it for him.
The pickup truck, which was also involved in the collision, was driven by 23-year-old Nathan Gomez, who has since been served with a notice of intended prosecution. Torres and Ramirez reportedly received minor injuries. Reporting for News 5, I am Isane Cayetano.
An investigation is ongoing at the Julian Cho High School in Punta Gorda, where more than $2 million were awarded in contracts to teachers by the then principal, Simeon Koch. Aside from those financial discrepancies found in an audit, there are other troubling issues. The high school has been operating without a principal for some time. An interim principal was named, but his term expired at the end of February. And still, there are no signs that a competent person will be appointed to head the school that has an enrollment of 1,000+ students. Aside from the principal, there are a number of vacant positions in science, PE, agriculture, Spanish, and accounting. The results of a follow-up inspection have been obtained by News 5. It is dated February 26 and it is 24 pages in all. The process involved 4 phases that started in December 2019 and concluded in February 2020. The report acknowledges limitations due to the unavailability of documents in respect of the curriculum and teaching practices. On the financial side, the report was not updated. The inspection team, however, found there were strengths in implementation of certain policies, in the removal of barriers to access education, the maintenance of a clean environment, and in the teaching of English and numeracy. Now, there was slippage in a number of areas. A high dropout and repetition rate plagues the institution. Students were unable to complete different tasks in the assigned time, and there is a level of regression in certain aspects. Planning for development of the school did not improve. Decision-making was limited to a few. Financial reports were not maintained nor shared with the relevant stakeholders, and attention had not been given to the clinical supervision of teaching. The report also notes that a coordinated approach to develop and offer programs to support student learning was not in place. Students' performance in the mathematics and English CSEC continued to be unsatisfactory, and activities that catered to the interests and talents of the students were not in place. The calls for an independent investigation into the demise of 4 officers from the BDF continue to mount. The Belize Energy Workers Union has issued a statement expressing support for the families of 2 pilots and crew members who perished in the helicopter crash last week. BEWU is joining the call for an immediate independent investigation into the air disaster. The union is also offering support to the NTUCB on its recent demands to the government, calling for budget allocations for the UNCAC Steering Committee and the Integrity Commission. BEWU is supporting the demand for the removal of John Zaldivar from the Public Accounts Committee and the resumption of committee meetings no later than March 13, 2020, as well as for the tabling of the next House meeting of the Auditor General's annual report for the years 2014 and 2015. The National Student Union of Belize this afternoon said it is in concert with the demands of the NTUCB in respect of the funding for the oversight bodies and for the removal of Zaldivar from the PAC. The student union expresses outrage at the response of the Ministry of National Security in the tragic death of the BDF officers and calls for an independent inquiry. A terse statement was also released by the Belize Workers Union. The union supports the demands of the National Trade Union Congress made at the protest 10 days ago. Its members, it says, are disgusted over corruption and join forces to the calls to incarcerate those that wrongfully and dishonestly govern or want to govern. Earlier today, the Belize Progressive Party extended condolences to the families of Defense Force Airmen Adran Ramirez, Radford Baiza, Yasir Mendez, and Reynaldo Chuk. BPP is appealing to the Prime Minister and the government to leave no stones unturned in a thorough investigation into the circumstances that led to the tragic demise of the servicemen. The BPP also requests that the necessary coordination takes place between the Office of the Prime Minister and the families of the deceased BDF officers, some who have painfully complained they became aware of the deaths of their loved ones on social media. There was a robbery of tourists at El Pilar site over the weekend. The visitors were along with tour guides when they were targeted. They report that 4 men, one armed with a rifle and another yielding a machete, attacked them, jacking their personal items and fleeing across the border into Guatemala. Head of the National Crimes Investigation Branch, ACP Joseph Maivet, says that security will be increased in the area.
The scene was visited by police where they observed 2 Belizean tour guides along with 2 tourists who reported to them that while sightseeing in the area, they were approached by 4 Hispanic males, 3 of whom were armed with machetes and 1 with a rifle. As a result, they were robbed of their personal belongings, and the driver's side window of the vehicle was damaged by those persons before they made good their escape towards the Guatemalan side.
So then it is suspected that there was Guatemalans
Yes, we do believe so.
who came over
Yes, we
the
do
border.
believe so. Yes.
Now, does this raise security concerns?
There have been a composite patrol of BDF and police officers patrolling those areas. Unfortunately, at that point in time, they were not in that area. Also, there is a composite team of BDF and police officers stationed at a checkpoint on the Bully Tree Road. Victims' vehicle was there. Those persons came from within the bushes on foot, and they then left back on foot after robbing the victims.
Now, will security be heightened in the area?
Certainly the patrols will be more frequent, and I am also aware that there are foot patrols being conducted by the BDF in that area, and those patrols harbor for a couple of days before moving on to other locations.
And this news just in. Police are currently at the scene of a Fort shooting today. A few minutes ago, gunfire exploded on Ebony Street. We'll have more on the story in tomorrow's newscast. After the break, stevedores enter a second day of protest. They stand to lose jobs in the lading of sugar.
60 seconds. When is it 60 seconds?
We experience many changes in life, especially when it comes to style and technology.
So why not change the way we build? With Coventech building panels from Benny's, we can do just that.
The construction capabilities of this panel is very unique compared to the traditional way of construction. The panel offers acoustic and thermal properties and can be installed within 50% of the time that a conventional construction would have been installed. The building is lighter but yet more durable.
Other fake building panels on the market can't compare to Coventech's engineered high-tension wire mesh frame, which will make your home stronger and highly resistant to impacts and weather conditions such as earthquakes and hurricanes.
So whether for your homes, stairways, fences, or big building projects, let's change the way we build. Make sure to use the Coventech brand building panels available only
at Benny's.
Benny's in 60 seconds.
Stevedores entered a second day of protest today. Since Monday, they have been outside the Port of Belize on Cesar Ridge Road, protesting the likelihood that locally produced raw sugar will now be shipped through the Big Creek port. ASR-BSI has conducted a dry run to test the loading of sugar at the Big Creek port in the south. The millers are looking for a more efficient system. The Christian Workers Union, representing the Stevedores, says that about 150 of its members will be affected. News 5's Hippolyta Novello reports.
The Stevedores are standing strong against the Port of Belize Limited. Their protest entered its second day today, and President of the Christian Workers Union, Evan Moshyde, says that the Stevedores are staying on course.
We are not in the business of watching the calendar right now, my brother, with all respect. We're not watching the clock. We are just eyes on the things that we want to have resolved, and until they are resolved, we believe that our members are committed to stay the course.
Some 150 Stevedores are facing an economic nightmare. The decision for ASR-BSI to have their sugar exported through the Big Creek port instead of the Port of Belize. It will leave them jobless and affect the income of many more who work at the port. The Stevedores, who are members of the CW, are blaming the port for not looking after their interests.
We have brought our concerns to PBL as our employer. For one, failing to properly communicate or to communicate any at all with our members, where we are with that. And it has forced us to have to go on a wild goose chase to find the answers. There is some 3 boats that will come our way for the 2020 season, and we call that the farewell tour for our sugar, and then thereafter they go through Big Creek. We believe that that is the result of the negligence and the failure of PBL management to have invested, to have been involved and engaged, to have a care in the plight of its workforce and what the implications are if they were not investing the kind of money to keep a company like ASR bringing its sugar through PBL.
Stevedores have held a presence at the entrance of the port since Monday. Some have stayed, some have left and returned, but their collective presence has remained. They keep hydrated and energized with bananas and papayas. They keep motivated by focusing on the issue. Els Milton has been a stevedore for decades. He is standing strong with his stevedores brothers.
We will stay out as long as we could. We are not giving up.
Do you believe that this will have a reaction from Mr. Vasquez in there?
You have to come out and speak to us or something of the sort, because whatsoever, sometimes like he play blind eyes to things.
Did the protest for 2 days now? How much money you done?
Yeah, well, probably. I'll say maybe you'll lose maybe $2,000, $3,000 for the 2 days you're out here, really.
That's a lot of money, sir, to give up.
Yes. Huh?
There's a lot of money to give up.
Yeah, sometimes you got to sacrifice.
Joining in the sacrifice was Dale Crawford. He is a member of gang number 2 and he has had enough.
We start as one now. Cause first and a chance every time we get tired, like we get enough. Like enough is enough. And then once money they make account there, keep the bills, call landlord, and they're right behind every day. We don't work every day. We don't every 2 months we work. When that 2 months say rough, I have work the next month, it's hard.
And waiting for ears for the collective bargaining agreement to be finalized is the staff at PBL. Chief Union Rep Rain Lembe says members of the staff have joined the stevedores today in protest because they too have had enough with the management at the port.
We had a CBA from 2002, so he's 16 years old. We are saying that CBA is stale and non-existent. We need a new CBA. And we're asking the management to cooperate and let us negotiate the CBA. We are asking our employer for over 3 months to have a negotiation with us so that we can negotiate the new CBA.
Was this the last move that you guys could make to get the management's attention?
We tried many other alternatives. We email, we text, we even get the Labour Commission involved, we get the Minister of Trade involved, and nobody seems to hear the cry from this part of the fence.
CW President Evan Moshyde says that the issue goes beyond defense. The issues that stevedores are facing are issues for the community.
This is all we have. This is the crown jewel of Southside Belize City. The $5 million that the stevedores represent, it is the last of this community's treasure. So, not just look upon it as stevedores. This become now one bigger picture. And we want the community to stand up because we want to push back on these empires.
Reporting for News 5, Hipólito Novello.
Chief Executive Officer for the Port of Belize Limited, Arturo Vasquez, wrote to CW President Evan Mose Hyde. In the letter, Vasquez tells Hyde that Gang Number 2 has refused to carry out cargo operations, and in his view, it constitutes illegal strike action in clear violation of the Settlement of Disputes in the Essential Services Act. Vasquez tells Hyde that the port reserves all rights concerning this matter and that it will hold the CWU accountable for all damages incurred as a result of the illegal strike action. Hyde dismissed Vasquez's letter.
We have not gotten an actual communication from the management. As we said to our members today, the union and the reps of the stevedores have been right underneath that shed. Management doesn't even have to use the phone. They just need to peep through the door and holler our name, and we could hear them. That's how close we are to them. Yet then they play like they don't see we. Then they play like they don't hear we. But they send one letter for threaten we. And we are supposed to respond to that? Nah man, we know. Nah man, we know. Man, listen man, you don't tell me about we have to pay for damages. I don't want. We don't have time for even follow that. We don't have time to follow that. But we have to speak about their behavior. We will speak about their acts. They have failed to talk to us, to communicate with us, treat us with any respect, and then continue to behave in an arrogant fashion. But what is important this morning is that our brothers from out of the shed, while yesterday they had a moment of solidarity, today they have officially sent out a letter saying that they are on strike. They are not only in solidarity with the stevedores, but they themselves have become completely insulted that the CEO would go on TV and be so comfortable in saying to the world, oh man, we got one CBA from 2004. You should have been ashamed to say such words. You should have been completely ashamed to tell the people that you have not had the decency or the interest to develop an agreement where appropriate to time. You to deal with 2004. I mean, you know much people not even me born yet. You to tell me about in 2020, when you have certain wings of the shed that were not even in existence in 2004. And you could speak to an agreement that you are complying with, and you could talk to any of the members over there and ask them if there has been any such culture of compliance with the CBA.
As the stevedores continued their strike, making a presence today was Philip Willoughby. Willoughby is the UDP standard bearer for Port Loyola, and he says he went there to gather facts and relay those facts to his colleagues in cabinet who can address the ongoing matter. Willoughby says both sides need to sit down and find a clear path forward.
I communicated with my colleagues, as you know, today cabinet is meeting in Belmopan, and I notified one of my colleagues about what is the developing and fluid situation as you can see right now. I am hoping that all the respective parties can get together, sit and have this talk so we can understand where we are and how, and chart how and where and what the future would look like for the benefit of all those involved here today. No one has to be out here standing in the sun hat. The country is losing finances. The workers are apparently losing. The port is losing. So no one is winning at this point, and it is hurting everyone.
When we come back, the Ministry of Health says it has put in place measures to face the coronavirus.
The Belize Bank introduced
As the coronavirus continues to spread across the globe, the Ministry of Health held another press conference this afternoon in Belmopan, where it introduced a plan of action to address a potential outbreak of COVID-19, or the new coronavirus, in Belize. While there are confirmed cases in neighboring Mexico, local health officials have put together measures to effectively deal with an eventuality. Minister of Health Pablo Marin informed that at today's cabinet meeting, Prime Minister Dean Barrow approved a budget of almost $1 million to be earmarked to combat coronavirus when it reaches the country. At least 2 of the major private hospitals have also joined forces with government to provide isolation quarters in the event of an outbreak.
The information that you should be listening to is from the Ministry of Health, the Director of Health Services, and the press office. For your information, today we had Cabinet and the Prime Minister agree for a budget right now for the situation with the virus of nearly 900,000, nearly 1 million. We have already been spending money from the Ministry of Health. And I think that is something that we know that is will come to us any time soon. We have, I think, 4 cases in Mexico. We have in Dominican Republic. We have in Brazil. We are lucky enough that in Central America, nothing have occurred as yet. But looking at the virus, it will come anytime. We are asking the public to listen also to the WHO and to PAHO. And one of the things that we can see is that 80% of the cases does not need any hospitalization. And also we want you all to know that a lot of people won't show the symptoms. One of my main objective here is to give thanks to the Social Security Board for helping us in this preparation. Mr. Sherrod, who is also he's the owner of some billboard frames around the country, that he has mentioned to us that we can use some of it without any cost for us to put our advertisement there. 2 private hospitals have already reached to us. That is Medical Associates and Northern Medical Plaza, that they will be having their own place, isolating areas. UB for the education sessions, and also the Belize State Group of companies for reaching out also.
Director of Health Services Dr. Marvin Manzanero also outlined collaborative efforts between the Ministry of Health and other government agencies, including the Belize Airport Authority and the Ministry of Tourism. According to Manzanero, screening travelers at the various points of entry has proven to be an ineffective use of human and financial resources, based on the recent experience of the government of the Dominican Republic.
Other than the entities that Minister has highlighted, Airport Authority, BTA, BTB, NEMO, the Ministry of Education is now, we're in full communication. There will be a meeting on Friday with general managers from across the country to lay out the potential scenarios that can happen depending on how COVID-19 affects and levels of affection it will have. Ministry of Tourism has been invited. We have already highlighted the fact that we're having a major activity with UB on Wednesday, with PAHO on Thursday, and today there is a major tabletop exercise. What is done is basically all regions come to the table and different case scenarios are tabled, and you go through an exercise process to identify that you're not going to miss that link. And I take that because one of the things that I think was very clear from the Dominican Republic's experience that was shared with us earlier today is that very few cases, and I think even the WHO Director General has been seeing this, are detected actually at an entry point. So that in point of fact, I know people are concerned about what's happening at the airport, what's happening at the borders, what's happening at the... But when you look at the scientific evidence, and we have been saying it as well, screening at ports of entry can be a lot of resources that are wasted, human resources and financial, with very few epidemiological substance to back it up.
So how is the Carl Huchner Memorial Hospital preparing for the possibility of an outbreak? According to Chief Epidemiologist Dr. Russell Manzanero, who met with KHMH personnel earlier today, referrals to that hospital will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis, should there be a need for patients to undergo ventilation or oxygen therapy.
I believe, as the DHS has mentioned, there are levels of how we want to give the attention and case management to the individuals who might become infected. There are different levels, and we would look at the cases individually to see how we would manage them. The majority of the cases, we are being guided by WHO and CDC to see how we manage those cases. What we've seen is that indeed 80% of the cases are mild. So for those individuals, and even the ones that we've been seeing in neighboring countries, for example, Mexico, these individuals are not even in a hospital, but they're being cared for in their home, so there is home care. The only point when we would actually do a referral to Carl Huchner is that when these are very severe cases that would merit ventilation or oxygen therapy, and these would be the ones that would be sent or should be referred to Carl Huchner. So we have established that with them. They have their isolation ward that they're already equipped.
Coming up after the break, UDP calls off the rally that was set for Thursday.
With over 100
with a global perspective.
The UDP had called out its supporters to come out on Thursday when the House meets in Belmopan. The event has now been called off as funerals take place for the fallen soldiers. The UDP, however, is preparing for another round of internal campaigning ahead of a leadership convention set for April 5th. On Saturday, the National Party Council met in Belize City, where a timeline was laid out to select a successor to the outgoing party leader, Dean Barrow, following the ouster of John Saldivar as leader-elect. While a few names are being tossed around, including Cayo North Area Representative Omar Figueroa, nothing as yet is cast in stone, and prospective candidates have until March 25th to submit their names. But will round 2 be an endorsement affair, or will several candidates battle for control of the ruling party?
Sir, is it your expectation, based on the conversation within the colleagues, that there will be a contested convention?
No, I have no expectation one way or the other. I just wait to see what happens. If one person puts in their name, then we have a consensus. If two people put in their name, then we go to a contested convention.
As chairman of the party, you are responsible for the good order of the party. What is happening out here where supporters of Farber seem to be, in their support, protesting against the UDP, who they feel is railroading, or against the NPC, who they feel is railroading their candidates, What is this? Do you support this type of showing?
Mr. Farber will come out in a minute. He will tell you if he was railroaded. He was not. We cannot railroad anyone in the NPC. As to what is going on out here, the people have a right to support who they want.
Colette Area Representative and former Deputy Party Leader Patrick Farber is still a force to be reckoned with, despite falling to John Saldivar at the previous convention on February 9th. While he acknowledges that the date for the new convention is roughly a month away, Farber says that his candidacy is still up in the air. But was the show of support by his constituents at Saturday's NPC a tactic to balk at his detractors?
Are you prepared to run again, John Saldivar again?
Well, I am prepared to do whatever the people of this party tell me is what they want me to do. And that is the determination that I am still trying to make.
Many of your colleagues threatened to resign, sir.
Strong crowd out here. There is a good, strong crowd out here that is indicating that that kind of support is what exists. But make a finish no man, you want to ask me. Amen. But there is a wider membership of this party. There is a wider membership in the country. Yes, sir, you were asking me.
Sir, quickly, two questions. One, are you, the sense of this crowd out here, I know they're supporters, but they came to intimidate and muscle the National Party Council. I'm telling you, members were heckled. I just did a heckle chime. Sir, it's a muscle tactic. It's a muscle tactic, sir.
It's all love, no muscles, nobody flexing.
Your case a little worse by showing them that you can bring muscle, by showing the UDP, which is famous. If you want to play bully with the UDP, nobody plays bully as well as them.
What do you have to say about the PUP squad last week? This is how you show your ability to lead, by bringing your supporters and having those supporters be the ones who matter most. These people who are out here matter the most for the benefit of the UDP. That's right. And that's what we're doing. That's simply.
Is it your expectation we'll have a contested convention on April 5th?
You know, it's still a ways off the April 5th. It is, I think, 35 or 36 days away. And so the determination of whether I will run or not is still, I don't want to poison the fact that we might still have a compromise.
And that's the news. Don't forget that tonight's broadcast is available in both text and streaming video at channel5belize.com. You can also connect with us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/News5Live. I'm Marlene Cuellar. Thanks for joining us, and from all of us here at News 5, good night.